Another story I'm working on. This is the first one I'm going to be talking about that is unconnected to my comic series of multiple spin-offs I want to do, you know? This one is going to be 2 sets of trilogies that I want to do. The first one is the only one that I'm like, hey, this is the kind of serious story, and the second one is just fucking full-off nonsense that is canonical if you want it to be. So the first set of the trilogy is going to be called Necromancy Blues. I didn't mute myself. Fuck. That time I muted myself. I screamed directly into the microphone. Just so you know, it sounds like this. That's a joke. I don't want to do that. So, Necromancy Blues is going to be about a world of magic. And everyone is born with some specific kind of magic, right? So there's necromancers, pyromancers, aquamancers, cryomancers, ooh. And white magic is opalmancers. Because I couldn't find a good one. And so I just kind of came up with it. Thanks to my good friend Tabitha for that idea of opalmancers. I dug it and I stole it. I didn't steal it. You gave me the idea. You actively were like, hey, what about this? So thank you. Thank you for that, Tabitha. So the idea is you can see someone's aura. Their aura tells you what kind of magic they are. The only, also your lifespan changes with that. You can only learn spells from that thing, with one exception. There's gray magic, which is purely neutral. It is like, a magical shield, or fucking, tracking magic, like some divination magic. It's the only time that he gets electrocuted, And it's gonna be real fun. It's gonna be a good time. Another story I'm working on. This is the first one I'm going to be talking about that is unconnected to my comic series of multiple spin-offs I want to do, This one is going to be 2 sets of trilogies that I want to do. The first one is the only one that I'm like, hey, this is the kind of serious story, and the second one is just fucking full-off nonsense that is canonical if you want it to be. So the first set of the trilogy is going to be called Necromancy Blues. I didn't mute myself. Fuck. That time I muted myself. I screamed directly into the microphone. Just so you know, it sounds like this. That's a joke. I don't want to do that. So, Necromancy Blues is going to be about a world of magic. And everyone is born with some specific kind of magic, right? There's necromancers, pyromancers, aquamancers, cryomancers, ooh. And white magic is opalmancers. Because I couldn't find a good one. And so I just kind of came up with it. Thanks to my good friend Tabitha for that idea of opalmancers. I dug it and I stole it. I didn't steal it. You gave me the idea. You actively were like, hey, what about this? So thank you. Thank you for that, Tabitha. So the idea is you can see someone's aura. Their aura tells you what kind of magic they are. The only, also your lifespan changes with that. You can only learn spells from that thing, with one exception. There's gray magic, which is purely neutral. It is like, a magical shield, or fucking, tracking magic, like some divination magic. Everyone can learn that. There's gray magic, and there's some mages who just really do gray magic. They were like, yeah, I guess I'm kind of okay at, my aquamancy spells, but I'm kind of more into the gray magic shit, And there's a lot of stigmas and stereotypes that go along with each one. Not all of them are true to each person, but, all stereotypes are at least somewhat based in a little bit of truth, or, prejudice. And it's sometimes hard to discern the two unless you know a lot of people who, those stereotypes are about. What's that? Is my story an allegory? Who could tell? Who would know? What? No, that's just a silly story about magic. So anyways, the main character is a necromancer who's heavily discriminated against because there have been a large history of necromancers who have been extremely evil And while the majority of necromancers are just kind of guys who can do necromancy, since a lot of the spells are like curses and blights and fucking evil shit, they don't like them naturally, you know? And it's not even like evil shit. You can use a lot of this magic in non-evil ways. You know, a curse is pretty vague. One of the curses is just like, you know, the curse of finding, so that you can always be found at any time by the person who's cursed you. You can never hide from them. But that's also really useful for just, like, keeping track of your kids. You know? Like, you're at a park, you put the curse of finding on your kid, and then they'll never get kidnapped. And you could remove it at any time because you're the caster. You could just uncurse your kid. You know, and obviously there are abuses to these powers, as there are with all powers. You know, and like some things, like, you know, a rotting thing is really good for making fertilizer. God, I really gotta fucking go die, man. I'm not feeling good. Why is this happening? I gotta never drink soda again. Ugh. Anyways, so let me just mute desktop audio. I'm not using it right now, but if someone Discord messages me, I don't want halfway through this video to just get boop. So the main character is named Mal, and he is a bounty hunter who specializes in two things. A, there is a type of necromancy magic called corruption. Now, what he's learned is you can corrupt people's spells that they've cast at you and turn it back on them. And it does more damage. So, that's mostly what he does. Someone shoots a fucking giga fireball at him. If he times it just right, it's corrupted. And now a necrotic fireball is shooting at them. And they're like, shit, what do I do with this? Nothing. They don't know corruption. That's not a spell they can do. They can try to block it, but they've purposely made it their most powerful attack, and they aren't even strong enough to block their own attack. And they can't absorb it because it's no longer pure fire. It's now fire and necrotic. They can't absorb this, so now they're just gonna get hit with their own spell and probably die. The second thing he specializes in is hunting down specifically necromancers. He can negate all of their attacks, and he's pretty good at gray magic, which most necromancers don't do. In addition, he gets consent from all of the dead that he raises. When you raise the dead, you can choose to let them keep their consciousness or let them just be a mindless slave. He lets them keep their consciousness and is like, hey, I will let you do, like, one thing. You want to go say hi to someone, you can do that if they're still around. But I need you to fight in this battle for me first. And sometimes they don't survive the battle. He's like, fuck. You know, the body's destroyed, I can't do anything, but they knew the risks. That's the thing. He tells them the risks. They're like, there's a chance you won't survive the battle. And they're like, it'll be worth it to say hello to my dear Agnes again. And he's like, when did you die? And he's like, 700 years ago. Well, let's hope Agnes is an opalmancer, or she's absolutely also dead. Which brings me naturally into something else. Lifespans. Hold on. Lifespans. So, the shortest lived mage is a pyromancer who lives to 200 years old. Necromancers and opalmancers don't die of old age, they die if they're killed. And all the rest fall into different spectrums of living long amounts of time. Living for long amounts of time. There is a 1 in, like, 10,000 chance that you will be born with no magic. It is viewed as a disability, as an illness. Those people cannot use any of the things that fuel on magic. They cannot use aura. They cannot see aura. So they are viewed as horribly crippled and disabled, and they are just normal humans. They live a normal amount of time. Now, Mal is known for a few reasons. He's known by a few people. But he's overall just viewed as a necromancer. Everyone can see his aura. So he lives in one of the few communities of non-magic people. And these are self-formed communities. They're like, hey, listen, we don't care if you have magic or not. It's not like we'd be able to tell anyways unless you started casting spells. Our main thing is just don't discriminate against others here. That's it. That's the only requirement. Just live your normal life, keep to yourself, or don't bother other people, don't hurt anyone, don't discriminate. If you discriminate, we'll have to ask you to leave. And there are some circumstances where someone is like, yeah, what are you going to do? How are you going to force me to leave? I have magic, you don't. I have magic, you don't. So, what they do is they just leave. I'm like, okay, I'll have fun living in a community with fucking nobody in it. And if the person then forces all of them to stay, creates a big wall of fire around it, it's like, no, you're all gonna stay! Throwing a fucking temper tantrum, they'll just, try to fucking kill him in his sleep. He's gotta go to sleep eventually. So, as soon as he does, he's gonna die. And yeah, sometimes they'll die trying. But he's kidnapping everyone there, and the magic community doesn't care. But Mal cares. Mal lives in this little community. And what you find out is a while ago, he used to have a wife. She was an aquamancer. They loved each other to death, but they kept having trouble finding a living situation because he was a necromancer. So they ended up living in this tiny little community, right? And the people who hated him the most followed him, and it didn't really pan out well. He and her both lived, but a lot of the people who were there died because of this battle that happened of people just trying to get rid of a fucking necromancer, right? And he's just another fucking necromancer. They're all worried that necromancers are going to become liches. They're the only kinds of mages that can ascend to a secondary, stronger form. And you have to do a lot of very evil things to become a lich. You have to kill a child and an innocent. Sometimes you could get 2 in 1, but if the kid's not innocent, then it don't count as killing an innocent. There's a lot of things, but the main one that everyone is worried about, the last thing you have to do is kill an opalmancer. Now, there's very few of them, but they're very much loved. They can cure any illness. They can resurrect people from the dead. They are, truly something special. So the main villain's an opalmancer. And his thing is he hates the non-magic people. It's viewed as an illness, and it's one that he can't cure. He's tried for centuries to find a way to cure them. Now, the first book, it's not going to be overly obvious that he's the overarching villain, right? I might drop a hint or two. I'm a fan of foreshadowing. But the main thing I'm going to do is the first story is about a sage. A sage is born once every 100 years. Maybe more. Maybe it takes more. Once every 1,000 years. And a sage is someone who can naturally learn all the kinds of magic. And they're hunted down and killed. Because there was once a sage who was a dictator. And with him knowing all the kinds of magic, he was extraordinarily hard to deal with. And he lived for so long, he lived for there to be another sage. And then another sage. And then another sage. And then you had one dictator sage with 3 extraordinarily powerful other sages as his henchmen. Eventually, they managed to kill them. I might write a spin-off story about that, but it's mostly going to be background history, right? So, sorry if you can hear me swallowing, I'm so sorry. So that's going to be background history for why they seek out and kill sages. Sorry, you might not be evil, but frankly, we can't risk that. We were subjugated for thousands of years. We're not going to fucking do that. There are still mages alive who remember it. But mainly opalmancers and necromancers, because those are the ones who are immortal unless killed. So, in the first book, he finds someone who is the next sage. He's 10. And he's like, hey, listen, you're just a kid. I'm going to train you a little bit. You know, I'm going to train you in at least necromancy. And, like, if people are going to hate me and people are going to hate you for things that you didn't control, that's not fair. And the thing is, the kid agrees that it's not fair. And the kid lives with him in this community of non-magic people. And they get attacked every now and then. They get harassed. And the kid builds up a hatred for all other magic people. And over the course of the book, it becomes obvious that kid's going to be a problem. You know? It's not necessarily his fault. Mal did his best, but without knowing it, Mal imbued some of his inherent hatred for the system into this kid, and the kid wants to take care of it permanently. He wants to kill, like, all those who would oppress him. And after a bit, he finds that he has, like, killed some people who were just magical. They weren't going to oppress him. Or maybe they were. They didn't get a chance to say anything. He just killed them. And Mal has to fight the child. And it's not going to be a crazy fight because Mal has thousands of years of experience. The kid's got, like, 2. The book will take place over a couple years. Kid will be 12 at the end. And he'll have to kill the kid. And it's going to be a very sad ending. The book's not going to be overly happy. In the second book, you're going to learn... Like, in the first one, you're going to hear that there are, like, entire villages going missing of non-magic communities, you know? Entire ones going missing, some of them being killed. Most of the bounties that he's going after nowadays are people targeting non-magic communities for seemingly no reason. That's one of the things that builds up the hatred of this kid. In the second book, that gets expanded upon more. He starts trying to seek out, like, hey, why the fuck is this happening? Why this sudden uptick of attacks of non-magic communities? I thought it was just the ones that I had been to, but now it's starting to just be random ones. I thought it was me, because he's got, like, a very, like... He's been persecuted for so long that now everything that is bad that happens around him, he thinks is attributed to him being a necromancer, even though sometimes it's unrelated. You know, which tracks, makes sense. And... fuck, I'm so... Oh, God. Oh... Oh, God, this feels like shit. Oh, I hate this. Ugh. Anyways, so it's now 1:32 in the morning. Fun fact. So, what he's going to do is he's going to slowly start investigating this. And he's going to find one of the places where these people are getting orders. It will already have been abandoned by the time he gets there, but it was freshly abandoned, right? They're like, oh, fuck. Someone's coming. And it's not one of us. Everyone left. They teleported away. Gray magic, by the way. And he could theoretically track them. You know, with being a gray magic savant, he could find, like, the vapors of where they went, but the thing is, they all teleported while they were next to each other, and all to different locations. So, he's getting conflicting signals. In addition, he hears something in there. He goes downstairs and finds an experiment. So, something necromancers can do is they can sap and leech magical energy from others. This has been an experiment to do the opposite to a non-magical person. Using some kind of necrotic energy, they have given this person to sap energy from others. But since they're not magic, they're sapping biomass. They're absorbing entire people, and while retaining the same shape, now having double the amount of organs, double the muscle, double everything. You could cut their head off and they'd grow another one because they got a spare. And then this guy just starts eating and consuming. He gains all of the memories of everything he's eaten. He doesn't gain any magic from anyone he's eaten. but he gains the knowledge of how the spells work. So when he gets targeted by them, he knows what to do to dodge them, to avoid them, or how to mitigate the damage. Now, the spell that Mal uses to kill the kid in Book 1 is kind of a chain reaction instant kill spell. It is targeting one specific area, and then everything that is natural in that area builds out and kills everything around it, right? But he's never really needed it to be very strong, because it's pretty strong as is. He uses it, this instant kill move, against the big bad of this one pretty early on in the book, and it just eats through like one body. And he's got at this point probably about 100. Mal gets his fucking ass rocked. Mal has to go off and like actually start training in his magic, start harnessing his necrotic energy more than he's ever had to, and he's noticing he's a little stronger than before. In a weird way. And the reason why is because he's killed a kid. He's completed one of the things he needs to do to become a lich. And every time a necromancer does that, they get a little bit stronger. He also accidentally kills someone in the first book. I didn't mention that because it's not overly important. It's going to be kind of glossed over. But when he's fighting the kid, he's going to miss with his first attack and hit just some guy who was innocent. And it's going to build like that. And he's going to keep accidentally ticking boxes of how to become a lich. And he's going to be pretty strong. One of the strongest necromancers, that's for damn sure. And he's already a pro at taking down other magic users. So people start getting really fucking concerned about him. They're like, oh, fuck. We knew it. We knew he was going to turn lich. This is why we were worried about the necromancer. He's a problem. Now, he's not actively seeking out to become a lich, and being a lich isn't necessarily evil. You don't have to be evil to become a lich. It's just viewed that becoming one itself is evil because of the things you have to do. You have to kill an innocent. You have to kill a kid. You have to eat a baby. That last one's a joke. It's a requirement of becoming a lich in my D&D game, not so much in my novel. And this is going to be several books. Probably not going to be as big as The War with the Nine Divides. That's probably going to be like 1,000 pages. These books are probably all going to be like 300, 400. So maybe together it'll be like 1,000. Like the trilogy. Now, he's going to eventually learn how to make that chain reaction a lot stronger. And he does it by accidentally destroying a forest. He shoots one tree with it, seeing if he can like do the chain reaction for the tree. And then the roots intertwined with another tree, and it, as he destroys an entire forest with one attack without trying to. Well, it's not what he wanted to do, but he knows it's strong enough for the guy now. But just getting to him is hard enough. The guy is in immense pain. He has the memories of thousands of people at this point. He's too strong. He doesn't know how to use his own strength. He can't touch anything without killing it. He can't touch anything living without absorbing it. And at this point, he's killed several animals, absorbing their hunting instincts, their drive to eat, their drive to do everything. In addition, the more biomass he has, the hungrier he gets, the more he needs to eat. But instead of just eating food, he absorbs more biomass, making him more infinitely hungry. It's a mercy killing at the point that Mal gets there. He's technically stronger, but the fight's a lot easier. The man is lashing out at anything that comes near. Mal knows that if he was noticed, he could be instantly killed, instantly absorbed. But he's not overly worried about it. There's a bunch of mages actively trying to fight this thing. None of them succeeding. Throwing a huge fireball at the thing. Yeah, guess what? You burned through 10 bodies. And then a tentacle shoots out. That guy gets grabbed and absorbed. Maybe not a tentacle. Maybe he can't move and morph his own body. It's just pure biomass. So he just runs forward and grabs him and absorbs him. But killing a few bodies doesn't do anything. He's got thousands of them at this point. The more you kill, the more intelligent he is. Despite the fact that you'd think like, oh, but, you know, the more bodies he has in him, the more knowledge he has. At this point, it's too much. He's got fucking millennia of memories at this point. He's got conflicting memories. He's got 1,000 sides of one story. He knows who Mal is now. He's absorbed a ton of people who know him. He's scared. Is it hiccups? Is it hiccups or burps? I don't know. It's too inconsistent. I don't think it's hiccups. It's the fucking worst. Mal gets up to him and does that infinite chain reaction shot. And it fucking works. And it's gonna be a hell of a death. As every new arm that forms immediately rotting away, as his body starts to melt and reform and remelt and infinitely trying to regenerate. It's gonna take hours for him to fully die. It's like when you're a kid and you find out that putting salt on a slug makes it dissolve. But you don't realize that it dies right away. It doesn't. It takes a while. And sometimes the salt you added isn't even enough to kill it. All you've done is make it miserable. So you want to put it out of its misery, but you don't want to step on it, so you add more salt. It's like that. Which, for the record, I don't think everyone has done. But someone told me that once, and I'm like, oh, that's the worst, and now it's a good analogy. It takes hours. People stop fighting for a while, but fighting starts happening again as people realize, like, hey, Mal, you're pretty close to becoming a lich. All you need to do is kill an Opalmancer. And he's like, I don't want to, that's for sure. I didn't want to be this strong, but listen, I accidentally already met a few boxes. I purposely sought out a few more so that I can be strong enough to take down this threat that I don't think a single one of you could take out, least of all of you. Like, are we complaining? I solved the problem. And I'm like, yeah, buddy. But now you're a bigger problem. You're right, all of us couldn't take it out together. You by yourself? That makes you a bigger threat. It's not going to end there, though. The book is, but the story's not. The next one, he gets into a fight with all those people. He doesn't want to kill any of them. He accidentally kills a few. Well, not so much accidentally, but more of like out of necessity, you know? Like he's not trying to kill them, but corrupting their spells back at them, and with his massive boost in necrotic energy, when he does that, it kills them now. It used to just injure or, like, sometimes kill, but depending on how strong the spell they threw at him now, the best way to put it is, now, how it used to be is you throw a 4th level spell at him, he shoots back a 4th level that's a little stronger. Now you shoot a 4th level at him, he shoots back a 9th. Categorically stronger. I guess that only makes sense for gamers and D&D players, but I hope you get what I'm going for. It is leagues stronger than before. So even people who attack him with, like, pitiful spells are getting hit with fucking enormous amounts of energy. He doesn't know how to control it yet. He's working on it. He obviously is very skilled at magic, so he's picking it up pretty quickly, but this is still pretty new to him. He's never been this powerful. He's like, I've been coasting at the same power level for centuries. I've never been this strong. And he continues to investigate this, right? He gets away, but now he's a very wanted man. Being a criminal means that other criminals look upon you a little more favorably. You're just as wanted as they are. You can't turn them in anymore because no authority is going to respect you. So he starts using that. He goes around and starts talking to criminals and finds out that it's the Opalmancer. The big celebrity. The one everybody loves. It's that guy. He is the main villain who's been actively paying for probably about a century now for all of these attacks on non-magical villages. It started a while ago, and Mal realizes that some of the attacks that were against him weren't against him and his wife. They were being attacked because it was a non-magical community. Something I've neglected to mention. When he leaves his wife, he gives her a unique artifact. Something only necromancers can make. It's like a stopwatch. When you open it, it brings a person who just died back to life for 5 minutes. Some people die very quickly. You don't get to have a last goodbye. If someone dies in battle, you don't get to say anything to them. They're just dead. So once the battle is over, you can go over to them, bring them back for a few minutes, give them a hug, tell them you love them, and that's it. You get 5 minutes. He gives this artifact to her, and he's like, if you ever find someone you care about half as much as I care about you, use this. People die. Sometimes much too quickly. And this will bring them back for a little bit. Allows you to have one more conversation. In one of the the non-magic communities he goes to, he finds a 30-year-old woman who has the exact stopwatch he gave to his wife, but it's been used. He finds out this is his daughter. She was pregnant when he left, and he didn't know. Granted, she didn't either. It was a fresh pregnancy. And... fresh, ripe pregnancy. Ooh, awful terminology. Immediately regretted that choice of words. Oof. So, this woman was raised by an aquamancer who has been persecuted. Doesn't know how to fight with magic. She doesn't have any. So what does she do? She starts inventing the first martial art. She starts fighting, and really well, on her own. Her mom, being a magic user who doesn't discriminate, is actively like, okay, I'm gonna try attacking you now, and I want you to bridge the gap between us, dodge my attacks, and kick my ass. She slowly starts getting really good at it, training a few other people in it. Magic users don't know how to fight physically. They have magic. Why would they ever fight with their hands? That's not even an idea they've had. I can literally kill with a fucking flick. Why would I punch? What even is a punch? Oh, you with your hand? But that's for magic. That's their idea, right? He meets his daughter. And first off, fucking has an emotional moment seeing this artifact he gave to his wife on someone else and it's been used. He finds out that his wife died. She didn't die quickly. She died slowly. She was injured. The fight was over. She slowly died. And her daughter wasn't ready to say goodbye yet. Brought her back for 5 more minutes. Mom scolded her for about a minute of that, saying that was a waste of that artifact. We got to say goodbye. And the girl saying it wasn't enough. I don't want to say goodbye yet. He's going to start getting along with her throughout the second book. He meets her in the first, but it's more of holy shit, my daughter? Well, I mean, I'm doing a thing right now with this insanely powerful magic kid, and I kind of don't want him to meet you because he's already got a couple red flags right now. And she's like, okay, I get it. I'll be over here. When you're done with that, come back. I'm not going anywhere. He does go back. The second book. He stays with her for the most of it while he tries to train his magic after getting his ass whooped. No Opalmancer will heal him, so he has to heal the slow way. And he recovers with her, right? She starts teaching him martial arts. No magic users ever had to use it. But another thing I've neglected to mention is you can run out of magic. Each spell costs a little bit of your energy. Your aura can be enormous, and as you cast more magic, it will slowly shrink, and it will eventually look like an outline around you. Some people are naturally gifted and are able to do a fuck ton of magic, and they've never, as far as they're aware, they don't run out. They can, but it's very unlikely. Some people are only able to do, like, maybe 100 low-level spells, 50 mid-level, 10 high-level spells throughout a day. It recharges as you sleep. It's not like you get 8 hours and boom, it's back. It's more of just resting, like your body being in a fully dormant state. Technically, some people, meditate. Some people read, so long as you're not actively using any magic and your mind is at rest and at ease, it'll slowly recharge. And it does take about 8 to 10 hours to fully recharge, so most people just sleep for 8 hours, and then they're good. If you got a lot of magic, it might take a little longer. If you went through your whole pool, it might take a few days to build it all the way back up. Mal has a naturally large amount. So does the famous Opalmancer. At the end of this book, they finally conflict. They finally fight, right? And it's going to be a hell of a magic fight because Mal's not just fighting this one guy. Imagine, if you will, there is a guy that you're pretty sure is going to kill everyone you know. He's pretty evil. He's kind of rude. He's on his way to becoming the most powerful kind of evil wizard there is. There's another guy who is like your version of Jesus Christ. Only ever been nice. He saved your life. He saved countless lives. And now you see a fight break out in a public area between probably gonna kill everybody and the guy who saved my mom. And you have magic. Probably gonna jump in. Now, Mal has more natural magic than the Opalmancer, but he's also fighting a lot more people. He's been outnumbered plenty of times before. When you're a bounty hunter, you have to fight sometimes entire armies of people. You don't do them all at once, though. He's in a town, but that kind of gives him a lot of options of coverage. As long as he doesn't lose where his target is, he can take cover every now and then. And he put the curse of finding on him. He only needed to touch him once. After a long fight, most of the town's scared of this guy. The town has thrown shit at Mal only for it to get reflected back and people to die left and right. He doesn't want to kill anybody, but he has to fucking stop this guy. He's the reason his wife died. This bitch is the reason that fucking monster from the second book was created. That killed thousands of people. He's the reason countless people have suffered. Not just non-magical, but magical as well. For experimentations on how to cure the non-magical, he studied on the magical. But nobody knows about this. And he's a wanted criminal now. So he's just like, listen, I'm gonna die. They're gonna kill me for this. I can't prove it. I know it's true, but the evidence has been destroyed, and I'm not reputable enough for people to believe me on my own. The only other person who knows half of this is my daughter, who's a non-magical person, who's the daughter of a necromancer. Probably not going to be the most respected opinion either. So if I'm going to not be believed, it doesn't matter. If I kill him, if I stop it. But he also only needs to kill one more white mage for it to take effect. For him to be a lich. In addition, he realizes that with his new abilities, his ability to sap magic has increased to the point where every time he kills someone, he gains their leftover magic pool for that, time. So he's getting more and more magic as he's killing people, but he doesn't want to kill too many, but it keeps him in the fight against this extremely powerful Opalmancer. At the end of it, they both run low. It's just them now. The people watching in fear, as most of them have run out of magic at this point, or just don't feel confident fighting him. He's like, yeah, he's only got a little magic left, but we don't know how much magic it takes for him to fucking kill us. And if he kills us, he gets our magic, and then he will win. He'll get the upper hand against him, so we can't risk fighting now. The Opalmancer notably never told anybody to stop. He never told anybody not to hurt themselves for him. He was fine with them sacrificing themselves. So he, at the end of it, cast his last spell. Mal casts his last spell. They don't know what to do. The Opalmancer's never run out of magic at this point. Mal doesn't give him a chance to worry about it, as he runs forward and beats the shit out of him with the martial arts he learned from his daughter. Kills him. No, he's dead. And publicly. The city, now distraught, watches as Mal starts to transform into a lich. But it's kind of a cocooning process. You're not supposed to be in public when it happens. Your skin starts to fall off, then your muscles, as all of your magical aura gets permanently bound to your skeleton, making it invisible. In addition, it gets quintupled. You are incredibly powerful. But it's about a 7-hour process. And in that time, everyone in the town grabs him and entombs him, putting the most powerful magical seal possible on this tomb. So by the time he's awake, he's buried alive, fully conscious but unable to escape. Every magical bit he puts against it gets shot back at him. Other necromancers helped make this, fearful of what he'd become, as he was now the most powerful lich to have ever existed. He's killed a fucking sage. He's killed the most powerful non-magical being to ever exist. He's killed the most great and powerful Opalmancer, while fighting an army of people. He's a problem. Oh, okay. Whew. Accidentally unplugged my microphone. We're good. He wakes up, buried alive, not knowing what's going to happen. And that's where the third book ends. The canonical ending, for most people, is going to be the main character trapped and buried alive. And then the fourth book is going to be 10 million years later, in a science fiction world, where he wakes up as someone accidentally found and awoken him, and he's the last magical guy alive. Something happened, and all of the mages died, and now it's exclusively non-magical people with insane sci-fi technology that rivals the shit he can do. Yeah, he can kill individual people, but he's fighting robots. What the fuck are robots? Yeah, that's why I'm like, hey, listen, if you want it to end canonically at the third book, I get it. That's the canonical ending. But if you want the rest, I'm writing fan fiction of my own fucking character in a science fiction story where he finds out that the Empire, the evil Empire, that's because every star thing has to have an empire, right? The evil Empire is using the most unique kind of energy weapon. He finally gets a hold of one and finds out it's powered by soul gems, something you can only make if you're a magic user. That's right. He's not the last one. there's another magic user somewhere. He doesn't want to meet them to kill them. He wants to fucking talk to the only other person who's managed to know what magic is in this insane time. So he builds up a fucking army, gets his own spaceship, and has a spaceship of the damned full of zombies that still have their consciousness but don't flinch when they get shot because they don't feel pain, and he fights an evil army empire of science fiction nonsense with fucking trognoids and all sorts of aliens fighting him. He doesn't know what the fuck is going on at any point, but he's still powerful, so he's like, you can't kill me, but I don't know what's happening. He's fighting robots. He's destroying planet busters. He's channeling up his magical energy. His most powerful attack doesn't do anything because he needs to hit organic matter, and half these bitches are fucking cyborgs. So he has to learn new shit. He has to try and adapt as a fucking ancient lich from 10 million years ago who was once the most powerful threat and now is just the new weird fuck who is all bones. Hey, that guy's bones. Has anyone noticed that he's bones? So it's a fucking insane just right turn. Here's a fucking fantasy story and then hard right into science fiction. No middle ground. You are just as surprised as he is to find out that spaceship and lizard people exist. So that's where the story goes after book 3.